Did you know that if you are on the creative path, you are already on a heroine's journey? But most creators don't realize that the heroine's journey isn't about working super hard to make our success happen, which many of us are programmed for, unfortunately. For 25 years, I worked hard at my art career until I used the heroine's journey as a framework for my creativity. And today I'm sharing how doing so has brought ease, fulfillment, and joy on my creative path, and it feels successful and nourishing. I learned that obstacles on my creative path are meant to make me aware of my vulnerabilities and, if needed, the pain and trauma I've experienced too, so that they transform, like deep insecurity transforming to foundational confidence, for example. I think we can all use a little more confidence. I've talked about my own vulnerabilities that bubble up in my creativity, which has made bringing my artistic goals to fruition very difficult at times. Gratefully, this is changing. Hi, I'm Alma Cox, and I recently gave a well-received talk called The Heroine's Journey on the Creative Path to a group of women at the International Women's Group of Portugal. They were inspired and found it helpful, which is why I'm sharing it with you. This is a longer video and is best watched when you have quiet time to digest it. And if you want to dive deeper into your heroine's journey on your creative path, I made a supporting video that's downloadable. It's a workbook, and you can find that in the description. It has journal questions for self-inquiry that are meant to help you. So let's begin. The heroine's journey can be a metaphor for the lifelong process of self-discovery and personal growth. It calls us to lean into ourselves internally. Life presents us with multiple challenges that involve inner transformations where we gain wisdom, resilience, and inner strength. We're here to grow in that way, to open doors within and face unknowns which ultimately guide us to uncompromising self-love. The hero's journey, coined by mythologist Joseph Campbell, is about external challenges and triumphs. It's a sacred masculine approach that is about outward action. Most of us see our creative path this way. What we don't realize is that energetically, our creativity or our personal creative path is embodied in the sacred feminine. The creative action we take is a sacred masculine expression, and ideally it arises from our feminine foundation. Both are necessary. We are in the flow of our feminine and masculine energies when we listen and heed our intuition, feminine, and are self-directed outwardly and confidently, masculine. In the feminine, we are receptive, and in the masculine, we are giving. Yes, we do make art, and that is an external manifestation. It is the act of creating and the creation, but the inspiration, the obstacles we face, and the solutions are all within our internal creative world within. It's a feminine energy system, and it's often neglected in favor of only taking action. Taking action without a sure foothold in your internal world will leave you spinning your wheels, doing a lot of things that leave you wondering why what you do doesn't seem to work for you and or get the results that you desire. As a metaphor, the heroine's journey is really a perfect framework in which to understand our creativity. I like to think of the creative path as a heroine's journey where we enter rooms within ourselves. Each room represents a different aspect of our inner world. The creative path is less harrowing, let's say, than major life challenges. It can help you get through them, but it is also a path that brings up fears, apprehensions, and obstacles by design, and they're meant to help you, but they do require your courage to move through them as well. When they say art is about the process, it is largely about navigating our emotional landscape as we create the external manifestation. And you are completely equipped to handle all of this with your inner vision. So imagine wearing special glasses that help you navigate your internal world. Now, why would you want to? Remember that when we transform our vulnerabilities, we set free energy that puts us on a course to fulfill creativity's purpose for us. First, let's recognize what creativity is. We know that there are many kinds of external creative expressions. Life is certainly generous with all the possibilities. But let's dwell for a bit in the ideas that inspire us to do something, or make something, or say something that are unique to us. The inspiration that you receive is your creativity, and everyone has this within them. Unfortunately, we often associate being creative with an exceptional talent. In Western society, we also place extreme value on the success of that exceptional talent and don't always appreciate or nurture or even celebrate the many small daily flames of inspiration that we receive. Being inspired to change a recipe is your creativity, inspiring you in a new way. Creativity lives in you as an impulse, a desire. We often take it for granted, and we actually really limit our creativity when we say things like, I'm not as creative as so-and-so. We put boundaries on our own creativity and limits. I can do this thing, but not that thing. I'm amazed when I teach a room full of talented women to paint. In fact, many walk in, come right up to me and say, Alma, I just want you to know that I am not creative at all. It's like they're warning me or something. Which is funny because just signing up tells me that they got some inspired impulse to take the painting class in the first place. And that is creativity too, a yearning that you feel when something outside of you pulls at your heartstrings in you to try something new. If you have made art for a long time and wish to try a new style, it's so important to honor that desire because fulfillment is built into it. Instead, we look for outer guides that tell us we must find the style that will bring us success and money and all the things. And that might work for many, but not for everyone. And some of us must explore many things, and our feminine energy system, our creativity, is always pointing us in the direction that is right for us. Want to paint cute dogs all day? Value that desire and your fulfillment first, and you will be living in line with your creativity. The problem arises when we doubt our desires. We think we need to make art like that artist over there. We are constantly invited to unlock doors within on the creative path, but we don't see it. Or if we do, we push it away. Here's what I mean. Imagine you walk into someone's home and you're immediately inspired. Creativity is that wish you feel if you could only create an inviting environment of your own, one that feels like you. Or you see a woman with style and confidence, and your inner reaction feels small, maybe even a little less than her. Or you see another artist sketching and recording herself at a cafe, and oh, how you wish you could have that content creator lifestyle like her. This is untapped creative potential speaking to you. It's a nudge from the inside responding to something outside saying, yes, let's do that. But often we feel it like jealousy and we feel bad for feeling that way. So then we shut down the impulse to decorate or dress ourselves as we truly like to. Or we feel wistful about what another artist is doing, but the voice inside says, I wouldn't even know where to start. I don't have the time or money. The internal no that you say to yourself, or the comparison we make to others and the resulting bad feelings, are internal blocks that arise within, and they actually want to help us. They are inviting you to accept them. When you do, you step into a space within where a new creative possibility awaits. I'm going to tell you how I do it, but let's understand what doesn't and what does work on the creative path. Creativity is always trying to get your attention, really, any way it can. You don't know that your brush off of a desire to decorate could be creativity trying to set you up to design fabric for clothing, even. Creativity wants to grab you by the hand, run down a hallway, and throw open the door of this room that you had no idea even existed. But how can we get there if we don't trust ourselves? This is where transformation helps us. Here's an example. Let's say you have compared yourself to someone. We all know somebody who we consider to be better than us creatively. As children, a feeling like jealousy doesn't feel good. And if our confidence is wobbly, then we might have believed that we were bad for having that feeling. If we never brought awareness and acceptance to that feeling and told ourselves that it's perfectly okay to have the emotion of jealousy, we might still be stuck feeling jealous and consequently powerless in certain situations as adults. Because our subconscious wants to keep us from feeling pain and powerlessness, it actually brings up an immediate no to the situation. In a strange way, it feels like we're in control. We say no to trying something new, like an art class or following inspiring impulses, before we even feel the discomfort of a strong emotion. Here's the transformation. In actuality, the good and what we admire in others is possible for us too. We just have to get there in our mind and our heart. Feel the feels, accept them, and move forward and follow what inspired us to begin with. When we face our feelings with curiosity and an open heart, instead of judging how we feel, they shift and transform. And with each transformation, we build inner trust in ourselves. With the art of famous people, we are always so moved, right? And that's a good feeling. But then we put them on a pedestal, and that might as well be on another planet because we consider them so special. We think, I could never make art like that. And it's true, because you can only make art like you. And I insist that you have to become your biggest fan on the inside. But to do that, you have to get comfy in your interior rooms and feel things that you may not want to feel and accept what you resist. Take in the art of others as inspiration, let it fuel your mojo to go paint, but don't tell yourself that these other artists are so special or compare yourself, because the underlying feeling message that your inner world hears is that you'll never be special like them. It's like slamming the door on your own face. What does work is feeling worthy of experiencing the kind of joy where time stands still, making something that you love, because that's what your creativity wants for you. Heroines are called to enjoy the inspiration we receive, take pleasure in it, create with a feeling of fullness and devotion to ourselves as we create. To do that, we have to create the transformed space within, and your creativity deserves it. After all, it's giving you beautiful and abundant inspiration all the time. And it's from this place that we take discerning action. I'm not going to lie and say that it's easy, because most of us believe the perceived demands of externals that tell us that success has to look a very specific way, while at a subconscious level, we also believe we are undeserving of that success. For example, many artists post multiple weekly videos, and we think that they work because they have thousands of followers. So we quickly take action ourselves. Make a video that takes us 3 days and leaves us exhausted. And then we stop making videos and tell ourselves it's the algorithm's fault. When really what we feel in us is lack, that we aren't doing things right, which really means we're not right as we are. And this propels us to do the thing that will give us likes in order to feel better. Essentially, we are just sending the message inside that only others can make us feel better, giving our power away. Go deeper. Why don't you feel right as you are? Maybe it's time to think about a time when you were excluded or you felt unseen. At the time, you may have just swallowed your feelings because you didn't want to cry. So cry now, because you can, and you're safe to do it, and you're worth it. And this is a way to transform that powerlessness into empowerment. Powerlessness is vulnerability with a superpower. You can apply transformations to many feelings, but sometimes just a pivot of awareness is really all that we need to adjust. You may have a rule that chores are more important than painting. You have to get your to-do list done before you do your painting. Your internal world hears the chore is more important than me. Maybe as a teenager you were forced to do chores and couldn't be with friends. You resented it, but because you had a sense of survival in your family, you didn't express your feelings and you just accepted what you had to do. And now you automatically believe cleaning and to-do lists have to be prioritized over what you love. Essentially giving a past belief power over your present. So just be aware and tell yourself that your creativity matters. It's easy, but giving ourselves permission is hard because we have to understand sometimes why we made the rule in order to consciously move forward. You might have to feel angry, and that's okay because the teenager's not going to let it go until you feel angry. It's a repressed feeling, and that's what I mean about being courageous. You have to be courageous about putting you and therefore your creativity first. And this is what creativity wants for you. Picasso said, "It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child." Painting like a child is about fun and simplicity, about forms and color. Artists like Picasso and Matisse began their careers painting realistic depictions of people and accurate representations of the world. Google it. By the end of their lives, they had distilled natural forms into the most basic shapes. These artists stayed on their creative path long enough to realize that their inspiration in its very childlike simplicity was no less worthy of being called art than their art that came before, with its rules, accuracy, and realism. Artists who continually face their obstacles within open new doors for themselves by questioning their expectations to be like others, their imagined rules that are no longer relevant, their fear of failure from childhood, and their deep insecurity of not being loved. That's one that is a big one for me. The rooms that they discover by opening doors have personal meaning that are like jewels. It's as if creativity was just waiting there for them to enter to set up new experiences. In my own heroine's journey, it feels like doors open to rooms inside me where I feel at home in myself, which is why I love the room metaphor for our interior creative life. My masculine energy has driven most of my life and creative path. It has helped me accomplish very difficult things, but also left me burned out and overwhelmed and just totally exhausted. As I embody feminine energy more and more, I feel ease, playfulness, confidence, and on purpose, and my back doesn't hurt. And it's this that I want for you. The feminine within will ask you to face emotional difficulty, that's for sure. And I know if I can do it, you can do it too. Life isn't easy. I used to think that being positive was enough, and I often bypassed my feelings, but I learned that feelings are here to help us grow and evolve, and I'm glad for the full, intense gamut of them because they have helped unlock a treasure within that includes foundational confidence. I'm going to share the steps that have helped me get there, I promise. Remember, creativity comes with inner obstacles and inner solutions, like I said. When you move through these consciously, you are honoring that feminine energy within that is necessary for masculine-oriented action to work. It's not a straight line, and each of our journeys is different, but being willing to enter into yourself is a giant step in the right direction. Now, I'm going to share the yes that opened the door to my artistic journey, as well as experiences that, based on my many years of teaching others, I've found to be very common obstacles that many face on the artistic path. Over 20 years ago, I was training for an Ironman, and no surprise, I was exhausted. One morning, very tired, I didn't go to a 6 a.m. swim workout, so I turned on the TV show to a Simply Quilts show with Alex Anderson. I fell in love with a quilt by a woman named Jane Sassaman. Something inside me responded strongly to this thing outside of me, and I felt it in my heart like a giant yes. Walking into Joann's Fabrics later that day was daunting, but a kind salesperson was happy to show me the way and even encouraged me to hand sew my project since I didn't have a sewing machine. The quilt on the left was the first artwork that I made as an adult. Now let's enter some typical rooms within that can be common and challenging. Now this is more of an outdoor room. Actually, it was at an art fair where two women came into my booth and one said, "I don't like anything I see here, but I like this." And she pointed to my sign, the purple one there. It was the first time that I'd heard a critical comment about my art. And her words actually stopped me from making art for several weeks. I made excuses to my husband like the kids need me, or I didn't have time today because I had to run errands. Then I just flat out told him I was thinking about quitting. selling the sewing machine because it was doing nobody any good just sitting there. And you know what he said? You probably should quit. Now this got my attention, and when I insisted that he elaborate, he said, "You're not appreciating any of it. Do you know how fortunate you are to make art? How many people would love to be in your shoes?" It was actually humbling. His words did keep me creating, but I didn't like it, and I resisted the uncomfortable feeling that people didn't like my art. This is an inner obstacle, and I tried to save face by telling myself, oh, what do they know? But this isn't the way through. It wasn't the inner solution. This trial came up over and over again in my art career, like when I received a negative review about a book I wrote, and when a woman refused to pay me for a class. I didn't feel my way through the underlying feelings, which was that I was afraid of not being loved. So my success stagnated in my art for years, meaning I worked hard and unknowingly kept asking myself why so many things weren't turning out for me. Now, creativity is very generous, like I've said, and because she wants us to succeed, she will continue with inspiration. But the writing is always on the wall, and the inspiration I received during a time would actually begin a very long process of healing that I didn't even know was coming. I did notice that the ideas I was receiving were very personal. Looking back on my journey, it's clear that creativity always knows what we need to grow and become more resilient. Opportunities came my way, I wrote a book, and I was asked to teach. However, the obstacle within was handling that next level of responsibility, which was tied to facing childhood trauma. Under the surface, I lacked confidence to handle all the good that was coming my way. I worked hard, I taught lots of classes, but my dominant masculine energy had wounding that manifested as negative self-talk, such as, is all this really worth it? I'm not getting paid enough, etc. A destructive energy was forming within. I would eventually learn that this self-sabotage and unconscious energy had to do with the pain of my past resurfacing so that I could heal it. The things that happen to us are always actually for us, to go within, to figure out what needs our love and attention. If you're having trouble sustaining the good that's coming to you, please get help. I believed I had to do it all and perfectly, and that wasn't sustainable, so my subconscious thwarted me with persistent negativity and insecurity. Why? So I could transform it. But I didn't know about transforming my feelings then. So for me, the opportunities dwindled. Fortunately, I did not stop creating, and that was good for my soul. So whatever obstacle comes your way, please stay on the path. As part of my healing process, in addition to seeking help, creativity inspired a series of paintings where the women of my past who suffered at the hands of the men in their lives were depicted in the roots of trees. The gem was discovering creativity's power to help me reclaim my voice. I saw the connection between self-expression and personal growth. This was a pivotal moment on my heroine's journey because my art was helping me understand the past. I was having lots of feelings and processing them as I created art. And you can do that too. And that's the common element. Art can help you through. And this very personal art sold with its heavy themes because I believe I was owning my truth. It was an important time because I learned to set boundaries, and importantly, I put my emotional health and well-being first. Prioritize your feelings and you'll send a powerful message to your subconscious that you matter. And I believe you'll notice changes in your external experience as well. The creative path invites us to find ourselves again and again and recover those parts of ourselves that we've disowned, like feeling self-conscious about a part of you. I felt vulnerable about my spiritual life, which involves meditation, prayer, journaling, and yoga. I noticed creativity inspiring me with these subjects that I love, but I didn't feel comfortable talking about them. Creativity is always steps ahead of you. Your creativity will challenge you to stretch your comfort zone. Be willing to be more yourself. Looking back, it's no surprise to me that this artwork did not sell immediately. I was scared to put it out there. I loved it, but fear and insecurity overruled. There was no feeling of pride or excitement. These are the energies that create magic in the world. To be a real artist, I need a formal education in art. This is a very common subconscious belief that masks the obstacle of insecurity and can keep you blocked on the creative path. At 40, I enrolled in an art program at a university only to quickly realize that it wasn't bringing forth more of what I love most about the art process, which is following my intuition, listening to those ahas within where I can hardly wait to make the next inspired thing. Now, I'm not saying that art school isn't valuable. It just wasn't what I needed, which was to trust myself and own my inner voice. Looking back, I see that creativity was inspiring me to do just that with my next art series, which included words. I was still nervous to be different, but I was becoming aware of my own empowerment along the way. Ask yourself often, what is my creativity showing me in the inspiration that it's giving me? Insecurity is a mask that most artists are invited to heal on their heroine's journey many times. We can identify it in the shoulds that we hear within. I heard the should. I should learn to paint the human figure, then I will be a true artist. Several figure painting sessions later, I felt a rebellion setting in, which is a good thing. The feminine within, you will notice, is all about being fiercely oneself. I began to notice that it mattered more to me to be happy than to be accurate. This, friends, was like a quantum leap on my path. In this room, the possibilities multiplied and joyful discoveries awaited. I began to crave being messier and creating without a plan, and for a perfectionist, that's a big deal. And it might not be right for you to be messy, but the key is learning to pay attention to what does fill you up. Insecurity had begun to heal because I was caring less and less about what I should be doing, which had been a series of self-imposed rules anyway, created in me as a way to control much of the emotional pain which felt out of control in me for so long. Your creativity really is your best friend, and it will always have your best interest in plain view, even if you don't see it. It will continue to inspire you through thick and thin, and what you begin to realize is that all the paths that don't seem right, like my enrolling in school or taking the figure painting classes, are all necessary to get on the path of self-trust and self-love that will develop the foundational confidence that your creativity wants for you. But you must be willing to feel your way through, which art is here to help you do. In a moment, I'll walk you through my self-talk, which was a game changer for me. It's like giving yourself permission within to be what you believe is the worst and the best of who you are. Creativity is an abundant resource available to everyone. Of course we can make money from our creativity, but I learned the hard way that demanding that creativity bring me money really just stops the flow of both in my life. Money is such a sensitive and loaded topic, and I make no claim to being a money expert, but like most artists, I demanded a lot from my art. Make me happy and make me money, and the more the better. It wasn't until I found true connection with my creativity and appreciation for it that I entered my favorite rooms so far. And in these rooms, it's all about self-love and gratitude for who I am. Of course, money is welcome in my life, and it flows in and out to support me and the world. And I'm grateful for it, but I cherish myself first. Finding Her is an art series about my heroine's journey. It invites the viewer into rooms that are sanctuary spaces to sit, rest, and be present, where the inner world is honored and embraced. When I'm finished with the series, I will share all the pieces with you in a video. I recognize that my work's priority is to appreciate me and everything I do, like my talents and abilities. I'm not going to tell you how to make money from your art. There are plenty of take action videos out there that do that, many of which have taught me so much. but I now take discerning action from what I learned from them. What I can tell you is that building my foundational confidence and self-love are key to truly understanding that abundance begins within. Now let's talk about the critical voice within. Most people have one, but they don't stop to feel the root pain of it. So they spend their lives being very hard on themselves. I certainly did. I painted art number 1, and then I painted over it to create number 2 and painted over that one as well. And of course I regret it because I loved both. The critical voice inside was not satisfied with either. The critical voice feels very powerful. It feels real because it's a part of you, and feels not real too because it's mean and will convince you that you and your art aren't good enough. But here's the thing. The critical voice wants love too, and it will unlock a deep love for yourself if you accept it. When you do face your feelings, it doesn't mean that they're never going to surface again. The critical voice comes with the creative path territory. It's an invitation to go deeper, to love yourself without conditions, which I believe we are all yearning for. Creativity will guide you to your unique sense of purpose for your life, which doesn't necessarily have to do with money and success. You may be wondering, well, why is it worth it then? Because you are more valuable than those two things, and that is what life wants you to realize. Your joy, your playful pleasure and fulfillment, your wisdom and foundational confidence, these are what attract the good in your life that you truly need and want. These are defined by your deepest core values and your heart. You will feel enriched and magnetize the abundance that is right for you without needing to work so hard. The best time to begin the process of healing is when you are having a strong feeling. I'm going to share my process with you now. Find a space where you feel safe to have your feelings. If you can't wait until you can, then tell yourself you will revisit your feelings later in the day and then follow through. When you are in a safe space and have uninterrupted time, imagine that you are sitting with a vulnerable part of you. Imagine that part of you as a person sitting next to you. Now, let's say you want to sell your art, but when it comes to actually putting them on a website, you freeze because you're afraid that they won't sell. First, validate. So I like to say this out loud. You're having the feeling, and tell the vulnerable part of you, yes, we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to look like a fool. We're afraid to waste money and time. I hear you and see you. Now, this validation may bring a painful memory up with feelings of anger or sadness or frustration or all of the above. Instead of avoiding feeling or remembering, just feel and remember in as much detail as possible. Cry, hit a pillow in anger, pound your fist on the bed. This is processing your feelings, and say to yourself, I love you, amidst the difficult feelings, and just hold on to yourself. This reassures your feelings. You have to be vulnerable and mean it, and it's not easy, but it does get easier each time you do it. When you feel that you have processed, then say to yourself, we are safe to do this. Even if we fail, I love us, and it's going to be okay. We're going to put 5 artworks for sale on our website, and it's okay if they don't sell. And if that's too many, then say 1, but follow through. The follow through and action part helps your masculine energy grow in its support of you. Again, it's important that you mean it, that you are sincere with your vulnerabilities. It helps me to inhabit the feeling that I'm the most loving mother that I can be to my strong feelings. I've made a commitment that even if it takes the rest of my life, I'm committed to loving every feeling that I have. Inner kindness and self-love must be practiced consistently. Sometimes there are many layers to love up, but I promise you, you are worth it. And you have all the love that you need right inside you. Today I see my inner perfectionist as a fancy Victorian lady. She likes everything in its place, and I do. I used to not let the dog on the furniture or food in the living room, but my perfectionist is more willing to break the rules because I validate her worries. Today, I'm more relaxed about my grand dog and food in my living room. If I get teased for being a perfectionist, I don't even cringe anymore because I've accepted this part of me. Like, yeah, I am. So what? It's easier to laugh at myself. It's not about forcing a change on the different aspects of yourself either. You may find that they do change, but it happens because they trust you to listen and feel them. You bring them into the fold of who you are by loving them. If you're open to it, the heroine's journey on the creative path will expand who you believe yourself to be in the best way. Art born from this kind of acceptance will fulfill you deeply, and its personal meaning will nourish you. Feelings are energy. As a teenager, I was very angry, but if you knew me, you would think nothing was wrong. I was very good at pretending everything was great. But I drank alcohol excessively, I snuck out, and I drove too fast. My suppressed feelings or energy drove me to do dangerous activities subconsciously. As an adult, I finally faced the anger of my youth, and I was shocked at how powerful I and it felt. It has taken 3 years of feeling anger, sadness, and disappointment pretty regularly to move this energy from being stuck. Creatively, it has surprised me in the stories that I discover in my art. Energetically, I feel enthusiasm and a deep knowing that I'm on my right path. The red anger I felt has found expression on the walls of some rooms. The teenager I was who felt robbed of her childhood has softened, and I'm remembering there were good moments too. Art heals and transforms. It can help change your life if you're willing. There are beautiful and inspiring rooms within you, waiting for you to throw open the doors so that you may dwell joyfully within them, creating what you love. You are the key to those doors. You are the heroine on your creative path. Your feminine energy is the foundation, and your masculine energy is the support or the container. And you are everything that you need to bring both into the wholeness of who you are. Thank you so much for your attention and time. And remember that if you're interested in the workbook and going deeper, I created this for you. The link is below in the description. Happy creating.